I'd like to call this meeting to order. I think we're being recorded. Okay, yes, we're being recorded. It's a meeting of the Parks and Recreation Committee, regular meeting, Wednesday, January 22nd. It's on Zoom, it's virtual, and we're calling it to order at, we're a little late, 7:36. I'm going to go through the attendance, and then we'll begin. Patty, you're there. Diane?
Yes.
You're there. Cheryl, I know she's trying to get on her phone. I don't know, maybe Diane, you can help her with the text. I don't know. Kelly is there. Penny there. Carrie's there. Adele's there. Sue Ellen's there. Jean's there. We're missing Andy. Sandy's there. Susan's there. Bill's there. And we're missing Verna. Okay. Okay, we'll see about Cheryl. She may make it yet. Okay. Oh, there's somebody. It might be. Hi, we have a caller, 203-550-2209. Could you say who you are? No. I'll try that one more time. 203-550-2209. Could you say who you are, please? Okay, well, perhaps you're muted, and so unmute yourself when you can. All right, we're going to get started then.
Wait, I can look it up. I'm what was it? 203-550?
Yes.
It's
Hi, Adele.
probably
Andy
Andrew
Millard, District 4.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you, Andy. Thank you.
I've been enjoying the hold music.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was me. That's my fault.
I'm doing the Zoom dance.
Okay, you tell me the next time. Text me.
I like it.
Okay. And I'll keep an eye out for Cheryl. There you are. Okay, we're all here except for that. So that's pretty terrific. Okay, well, we would like to welcome our Parks and Rec Director, Jen Fava, who's going to take us through the the fiscal year 26 operating and capital budgets. And I'm going to just say, take it away. Everybody received the budget that Jen sent to us. And so I'll let her walk us through the basics and the changes from last year and that sort of stuff. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Did you want to try to share anyway?
I will in a minute.
Okay.
And hopefully it'll work. Just a few overview things. So what was sent to you and what I'll be working off of was what was originally approved by the Parks and Rec Commission. I will go through and tell you where some things have changed. The revenue numbers, many of them changed after it was originally approved because we've had some fee changes that were just approved on January 15th. So I'll share that information with you. And just yesterday, I received just a few of the town administrator adjustments. So I'll note those as we go through too. So I'm going to try. Let's hope.
Let's see.
All right. Can everybody see? Hopefully that's the same document you all
Yes.
got. Yay. So far, so good. So also just some preliminary things. One of the things that happened when I first got here was when Jim was still finance director, she had also asked me to look at possibly combining some different budget lines, things that made sense. So you'll see as we go along, I'll point those out, but we have combined some. And there was a couple others that we talked about doing, but didn't feel we had enough time to do it right for this year. So you may see that again next year with a few changes. So the first thing we'll start here is the revenue numbers. Again, many of these have changed due to the fee changes that were just approved. So the first one is the beach parking permits. That has actually been bumped up to 457,000. And that again is really just based on the fee increases. And those beach parking permits are what we collect for the beach, the stickers to get into the beaches, as well as the daily fees that are collected at the gates.
And Jen, what were those going up to? I'm sorry.
457,000.
No, I mean per resident.
Oh, it depends. There's so many different different categories. The main thing was for a regular one where you paid 53, that is gone up to 58. So, and now that includes the tax. So for the parking stickers, there is state tax that's included in that.
Thank you.
Yep. The next line was the boat permits. That actually went up, so that is staying at 38,000. And actually, some of these things, as I was going through, I found some things that were kind of off, or I didn't understand the calculations, so I redid them. So you'll see there are some adjustments that have been made through. Part of that has to do with, although there are some fee increases for the launch permits and those things, the kayak space rentals, that's staying the same rate. However, it was calculated for a number of spaces that don't exist. So I made it for the for the actual number that we have. So that's where that number comes from. The paddle court revenue, that again was estimated, that went up to 96,000. So it's only up 1,000, and that's based on the estimated actuals that we've been seeing. And what we've been noticing is a trend of decreased usage since the COVID high, and we've slowly been seeing that trending downwards. But we did add back in for the additional court and for the fee changes. Pickleball revenue, again, you'll see last year the current budget is 30,000. We haven't come anywhere close to that. So again, I'm basing it more on actuals. And part of the reason is because last year, based on requests from people, there was more open play hours that were put in there, which means that there were less hours for people to make reservations. So it basically, so that it just lessens the amount of money that we could actually make at all. So that's why you see that large drop.
Jen, can I just ask a question? Yep. Is that also because 2 years ago, a lot of the lessons were given on the lower courts, so people could play on the upper courts, but now that's not available. So could that also be a reason why there's decrease in fees?
Yes, thank you for that.
Okay.
Yes, because that's also taking up now, the lessons are taking up time that again could have been used for reservations. So between the open play being expanded and the lessons being moved on to those courts, we have less open time for reservations. Building rent. So that really is strictly just the use of the paddle building. So the rental for the use of the paddle hut. So that's pretty much in line. We kept it. Actually, that is going up to 18,000. And again, that is strictly just because of the fee increases that were approved. Parks and Rec program fees. So that number is staying at the 37,000, and basically those are fees that are collected when we do different events. So say the parking fees for fireworks, the daughter duo dance that's coming up, we charge a fee for that. So any of those fees that are connected to our events. We were also, so while that's coming in, we removed, I'm not sure why it was in this line, but the money that we received for the kayak and paddleboard company to do the rentals at Weed Beach, that money was being put into that line. So it didn't seem to make too much sense. So that has been moved into the line below the rent town hall. So that line now, the rent and town hall line is staying at that 18,000. So that now includes the kayak and paddleboard rent, the beach concessions rent, as well as money that we receive from the Darien Arts Center for use of the Mather Center.
Okay, can I just reconfirm that? Thank you
Sure.
for clarifying that. So now with rent for town hall, kayaks are going to be in it. And what were the other two things you said?
So it's not actually the kayaks, we actually have to go back out to bid, but the rental business that would rent kayaks.
Oh,
and
okay, got it. Thank you.
It's that line.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay,
Exactly. I was like, well, they're really like renting the beach, so why would that be in a program fee? I couldn't understand it, so.
got it. Thank you for clarifying that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So then, this is so hard, I'm sorry, I'm trying to go off of 3 different sheets of paper on the computer. So the next one is park facility permits. So that is where we include any of our permit fees for, when we permit picnics and things like that. And it's also from our youth sports organizations. That line is going up to 42,000, up from the 31,000. And again, that's due to the fee increases that the commission approved.
So just to confirm, that's the additional 5 that was added. So it's for a total
Correct.
of 10 per participant per sport per season. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. So
thank
it's $10 per participant per season from the sports groups, plus any of the revenue that we get from our use of our facilities. So any permits. So people that want to have a picnic or something like that and get a permit.
Right.
Those 2 things combined are that park facility permits line.
Great. So it's now going to be 42K. Thank you.
Correct. Then we have the tennis court revenue, pretty self-explanatory. That's for when we do take reservations, some sort of block seasonal reservations for that. And that, because of the fee changes, goes up to 3,500.
Excuse me, Adele.
Yes,
Adele. Cheryl said that she is,
I just let her in.
she's waiting for you to let her in.
I just let her in, I think, I hope.
Okay.
And Jen, while we're waiting, could you
Sorry.
just confirm? So it used to be tennis court rental block was $5, correct? And so is that now $10?
Oh, I didn't bring all my fee information. I believe they went to 12. We
Okay.
used to we had a $5 and a $6 rate. And they all went, I believe, to 12.
Okay, thank
Just
you.
made one rate and it was 12. Yep.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. And then the last piece of our revenue is our transfer from our rec program. So I know some of you are new. So our rec programs are in kind of a separate budget. Our expenses and our revenues go in there, and then the revenue that we have, or the profit that we have in there at the end of the year gets transferred over. So that's what that 337,000 is. So that's our anticipated increase in program revenue, whether it's from some of the fees may go up, or it may be additional programs that we're adding, and anything, but altogether, that's what we're estimating. So
Just to clarify that, can I just ask, so just to clarify that, you think, for example, just for the newer people on, let's say, Ninja is X amount, if you increase that amount, that's where we're going from the 280,000 to 337. So you said if we increase on the rec programming, right? So, and then there was one other thing you said that I couldn't hear.
Correct. So basically it's like anything that's in, like in our brochures and things like that, programs that you sign up for. And it could be that we've added programs. It might not be just fee increases. For example, this past spring, couldn't have been spring because I wasn't here in the spring. This past fall, we added a lacrosse program. So, and that brought in a decent amount of money. So things like that, where we're, constantly trying to bring in new ideas. So for potentially additional programming. So that money would be in there as well.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Yep.
just one point of clarification about the fee increases. So that's in addition to any fee increases that you've already touched upon, like for the paddle, the pickleball, etc. What are the other fee increases that you're referring to then that weren't already discussed in the other line items that you just went through?
I'm not sure what you mean when I'm talking about this bottom rec
Or
program line.
yes, because you had mentioned this increase was because of fee increases and also newly added programming. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, so potential increases, or again, it could also be that we have programs that are more filled, our sessions are more filled. So it's not necessarily going to be fee increases.
Okay.
Most of our programs are done working with an outside vendor, and whoever that might be. And we basically take, we do, in most cases, it's like an 80-20 split. So we take 20% of the revenue.
Okay.
So as they're setting their fees, if they're looking to raise something, it's not necessarily that we might raise the fee, they might raise the fee, but then we put a 20% for us onto that.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So just for a total, our revenue, we're anticipating 1,064,500 is the new number.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I guess
So you're suggesting that they do the fees, set the fees before you do the budget next year, are you?
Yes. So one of the things that I have already shared with the commission was this is way too late. And the way this was done, we actually, the commission approved the budget in December, but then fees weren't approved until January, till last week. So it holds everything up. And I'm like, well, I can't really do the budget without knowing what the fees are going to be. So we're talking about doing this, much earlier, probably start in the September range, so that we can get things done more around
Excellent.
November and have everything done.
Great.
So I'm trying to make this a little bit easier to look at. So we'll start going through some of the expenses, and please let me know if I'm yammering on too much or not enough. So administrative expenses, this is really kind of the recreation department staff. And it's I'm saying this in terms of separating recreation and our parks maintenance. So this is the recreation side, the office staff. So those are the full-time salaries, the part-time salaries, and our seasonal and temporary salaries. There was a town administrator adjustment for the seasonal and temporary salary. So that line goes down to 9,901. Basically what happens there is I had asked for, I think, about 4 additional weeks in hopes that we would be able to get somebody for the extra time. Most likely that won't occur because it's usually college students. So she kind of adjusted it and we just added two extra weeks on.
Could you just
Now-
confirm if that was under part-time salary or seasonal and
sorry, it was the
temporary going
seasonal-
down to 9, please?
It was the seasonal and temporary salary. Goes to
Thank you.
9,901. And just so you're aware, minimum wage is going to be an issue throughout. You'll see, so now in the state of Connecticut, the minimum wage gets increased every year. So it's constantly increasing. This year they did a 4% increase. So we're kind of anticipating that again next year. And what the town's policy right now, at least, is we take for the general people, some of them, some positions start higher if there are certain certifications and things like that, say our lifeguards. But we start at minimum wage plus $1. So that's where the town is starting with on that. And also you'll see throughout our entire budget, salaries, anything that's salary or staff related makes up, and again, this is prior to our town administrator adjustment, so it should be still relatively the same, but it was about 39% of our total increase is based solely on salary or staff related. Let's see.
Could you just repeat that one more time, please? Thank you.
Sure. So in looking at our overall budget, when you look at the overall increase, about 39% of that increase is because of salary or pay rate increases. So whether it's contractual for, some of our union members, whether it's pay increases for our full-time people, or as I said, like kind of our hourly rates go up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So there was another adjustment as we go down. Travel is reimbursement, mileage reimbursement. That too was adjusted by the town administrator. That the 2,945 goes up to 3,295. And that was because there's, I guess, been an adjustment from the federal level. So she made that change. The next one that had to change are conferences and meetings. So that line was reduced down to 8,945. What that is for attendance at different conferences and trainings for staff. We spoke about it. What had been in there in the past was for staff to go to the Connecticut State Conference, and for 2 people to go to the National Recreation and Park Association Conference at their annual conferences. And this year we had I had a request from our assistant director to attend the National Recreation and Park Association Directors School, and thought that was a really great thing. Very happy that he has the interest in it and wants to do it. So in talking with Jen when we had our initial meetings, we're keeping the money in to do that, and we're reducing the NRPA to just be for one person.
Thank you.
Yep. Then we go through, we have in training, clerical, these numbers all stay the same. Again, most of them now stay the same. The clerical services are for someone who to do the minutes for our Parks and Rec Commission meetings. Dues and professional licenses, again, those are for memberships for staff to be members of the Connecticut Recreation and Park Association and NRPA, which is the national. So it's keeps all of those. Printing, you'll see printing is a new line in here. And what that is, again, when I'm going back to changing things around a little bit, we felt that it made sense to put all of the printing into one line here under administrative services in administration expenses, instead of, we had some that were under beach and court and some that were under organized rec and events. So we've combined those two and then put them in under administration expenses. So that's where that line comes from. And you'll see that when we move on, you'll see where those have been taken out. Software maintenance and support, that is for our registration software. That's a contractual obligation that we have. So that's where that increase comes from. And then office supplies are, of course, office supplies. Any other questions on administration expenses? Okay.
Can I just ask a quick question? So when someone comes in and or online decides to choose, I'm going to do archery or ninja or whatever, is that going via the software maintenance and support? I'm trying to figure out where the credit card, I know we've had discussions over the years about credit card fees and why are we absorbing it instead of really passing it on to the end user? I'm just not sure where that goes, or is that just overall Board of Selectmen budget?
So I asked the same question because I was like, where are the credit card fees?
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with the credit card fees. This is strictly for the maintenance and support of our registration software. So it's the whole interface that you deal with when you go on and register for the lines. I believe Jen said it's the credit card fees come out somewhere else. I guess it's in an overall budget line somewhere. I'm not sure where, but it doesn't come to us individually.
Okay.
Out of our individual budget, I should say.
Jen, I just have one quick question. So professional services, I just don't remember from last year that we had, 23 actual and then 24 actual, and then now we don't have any. So I thought maybe you were going to say that was printing, but no.
No, my understanding is that used to be the software maintenance, the software, the registration software.
Okay,
Yes,
makes
it
sense.
was.
Sorry. Yep.
And they changed how it was done, and that's when it swapped to, that's why in this current budget, it's the 40, and then the 42 is, we went in for the maximum number. There's a calculation that they do for the increase. So that's what that is. Okay. Anything else on administration? All right. So beach and court facilities. So pretty self-explanatory. This is for our beaches and our courts. The part-time salaries, just so that is for our staff, that the people that staff the paddle hut. So that's what that falls into. And then the seasonal and temporary salaries, those are basically our lifeguards and the people associated with the beaches. So there is a bit of a larger increase in that line, the seasonal and temporary salary. partly because last year, at the end of the year, I actually had to go and ask for a transfer because we were short. Looking back, some of the people were calculated out as at rates that were lower than what they were actually being paid. So we've made that adjustment. I've corrected that. And then obviously we have, you know, again, because of minimum wage, it pushes everybody's scale up. So that comes into play there. But that's why there's such a big jump in that. It was making those corrections. Again, so training services for that, again, our trainings for our lifeguards, and those staff. You see printing, you'll see that we took out the 3,200, so that was for the beach stickers and envelopes. Our security services, those went down. That is based on with the bid. When we bid it out, we got a better rate, and actually we were very happy with them. They seem to do a good job, seem to be, you know, they seem to be a bit more on top of things as well. So we're happy, and we plan to bring them back because we can extend that contract. So.
Jen, from a personal standpoint, I thought they were much, much better. There were one or two from the old group that were good, but that last year, it was definitely on the margin, people snoozing in the car at Pear Tree, stuff like that. This year, they were friendly, excellent, hello. I mean, exactly what you want interacting with the public. So well done. Thank you.
Thanks. And we saw an increase in revenue, whether that was more people going or people more on the ball, I don't know, but or a combination thereof, but we were very happy with them. Trying to see what else there is. The uniforms is just staying flat. Again, operating supplies, pretty much flat. Facility maintenance materials, again, they're all pretty relatively flat there.
Can I ask a question on
Yep.
facilities maintenance materials? And if you can
Sure.
define what that is. For example, when we saw kind of a decline at the Pear Tree Point bathrooms, and then it was encouraged to paint the bathrooms and kind of do the fit and finish or upgrade some of the bathroom hardware, so to speak. So it matches the fit and finish at Weed Beach. I know that was a special money that was allocated to that. But if something came up at our beaches or courts, that's where that's going to go, the facility maintenance material.
Yeah, this line is basically, it's like miscellaneous supplies for repairs on our benches, our small equipment, our picnic areas, some plants, gardens, paint, you know, all of those types of items.
Okay, I'm going to ask the rare question of saying, would you ever actually need more for that instead of coming to us later and asking, or coming to the Board of Finance or the Board of Selectmen asking later, or these are smaller items, so you feel good with this number?
In this one, I think we're good with this number. You'll see there's numbers in some of the other budgets, and this goes back to kind of what I was saying, where we're talking about maybe combining a few of these same kind of line, facility maintenance material lines or facility maintenance lines. We've got them in like 3 different places.
Right.
2 or 3.
That
And we're
was
like,
confusing.
does it really make sense? And then at some point we just end up transferring from one to the other. So I think we're good here.
Okay.
And you'll see some on the other side.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So anything else on the beach and court section? Okay. So next would be our recreation facilities maintenance expenses. So this basically think of it as, this is kind of our crew and our equipment. So the parks crew and all the equipment that they use in maintaining everything. So there is the full-time salary line was adjusted. The new number is 467,114. And that was because the number they had given me to put in here, they had miscalculated something. So town administrator made that correction. So again, just it's 467,114. Then again, we have the seasonal and temporary salary. That's we typically have been getting, 2 seasonals that come in and work with us and help with staff. They're very useful, especially as we're doing baseball fields and the beaches and all that during the summer. So that's what that line is. And again, it goes up based on the minimum wage and all of that. The overtime salary. So this is one where, again, it's kind of a bigger jump. I recalculated it based on sort of our actual hours. We have been over over budget the last couple of years. But I couldn't understand it. It was what had been calculated for the beach and refuse collection on the weekends was only a small portion. It was maybe a third of what we spend. So I calculated that out as actual, using an average rate for our staff. And then we do have money in there, a set amount for snow. Last year, I think it worked out well because I think there wasn't so many snow episodes. So what wasn't used in overtime for that was able to go towards what they were using, what they needed for the beach work on the weekends. So that's why you see kind of a significant jump there. And we're starting to, this year we've already had staff in multiple times for snow and ice. Again, our clothing, tool allowance, that's a contractual item. Our equipment repair, it's pretty flat. So again, here you'll see the motor fuel and lubricants, the small tools and the tires have been removed. Those have all been folded into the equipment, maintenance, parts, and supply. Didn't seem feasible to have lines just for $400 when it's all related to the maintenance of the equipment. So those lines were added into that.
Did you say, and the tires?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, so you'll see the 3 dashes where those were removed. So those
Yep.
get folded into that 11,800 for equipment, maintenance, parts, and supply.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. So that's that section. Any other questions on that? Okay.
Sorry, I actually have a quick question about the overtime salary really quickly,
Yes.
just because looking at the overtime salary, it does seem significantly higher than seasonal and temporary salary would. And I don't know if overtime salary is only ever paid to people that you had mentioned something about snow, right? So, and versus seasonal and temporary is about more, like the lifeguards, correct? Is that correct? No,
not
that
in
was
this
for
line.
This one is more for the lines on the fields and field maintenance, right?
In this line is, so this is, say, our park staff. It's
Mhm.
the lifeguards were in the other category, the other cost
Okay.
center.
Yes.
So this is our full-time park staff. And then in the summer, we get 2 seasonal people. Typically, they're college kids. So they come in for about 14 weeks each, and they help with regular maintenance. So they're not really included in the overtime. They're typically not doing that. It's our full-time staff. So
But
what,
it's full-time that's receiving overtime, and it wouldn't necessarily make more sense to embed additional hours into a full-time salary. But I'm just asking the question, like, because it's time and a half, right? That you're paying someone for overtime. So would it make sense to, I guess, increase the overall number of hours per week versus just
well,
paying overtime? I don't know. I'm just asking.
you couldn't, they're contractual, they're in a union.
Got
So
it.
the park staff are union, so you'd have to add additional bodies. So then it comes down to, number one, does it make sense? Like, how would you do it? Because really what happens is on the weekend, right? They still have to do the work Monday through Friday because they work Monday through Friday.
Mhm.
But then we still have to bring them in on the weekends to groom the beaches, to pick up trash, and do that work. So you could have other bodies, but if you have to follow the contract, you probably wouldn't be able to stagger that. You'd have to.
Yeah.
It turns into a much bigger thing, and then you'd have benefits and things like that if you brought in additional people. So
Got it.
that's where you start doing that kind of cost benefit, which how does it weigh? I do also want to say that we do bring staff in on the weekends to maintain the ball fields for Little League. We do end up not paying for that. They reimburse the town, so it's a direct wash through. So we don't have to, that's not included in here because they pay for those overtime hours.
You're talking about Darien Little League. Is that what you mean?
Darien Little League. Yeah, I don't know if Babe Ruth
Okay.
uses them on the weekends, but yeah, so we bill them, we give them how many hours, and they reimburse the town for that. So we do not incur any overtime for that work on the weekends.
Which is terrific. Thank you.
Yep, it's great.
Yeah.
So organized recreation and event expenses. This line is very confusing to me. This group. So, and I have talked with Jen a little bit, and my guess is we're going to be changing some of these names possibly because it's, where is it? Like the program expenses. This is mostly like our events. So when you have program expenses, you think it's the programs that we offer in our, like through our brochure, but it's really, again, like fireworks, old-fashioned holiday, any of those kinds of events that we're doing, or luau. So it gets very confusing, at least to me. So one of the things, again, our part-time salary. Where's the other sheet? Yeah, so this is actually this part-time salary is for the people that we have for our supervisors for adult basketball, co-ed volleyball. And then we also have money in here for special needs aids for programs. So what that is if somebody registers for a program and say it's a child and they need assistant, they have an aide usually, typically in school. We try to reach out to this, in most cases, we would try to reach out to the school and see if we could hire the aide that the child has in school. So they're comfortable with that person to come and work with them in the whatever program they're signing up for. So that piece of money doesn't always get used, but sometimes it does. So we have to have it in there just in case. Let's see, the junior sailing program. This is something where years ago, we used to, and again, this is what has been told to me. We used to take care of handle their payroll, but then it was determined that we shouldn't be doing that anymore. So we basically give them $4,500 as kind of a grant, I guess, to offset their costs. So that has stayed even. Again, you'll see the printing line has been removed. That was 16,000 to 80. That again was put in under administration. That's basically our funds for the brochures that we do. The mailing and shipping is obviously for our mailing of those brochures as well as any other mailings that we do. And then our
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Do you have an estimate of how many brochures you mail out? I remember there was a discussion about this a few years ago. Everybody, most people have access online and, or a lot of times, the moms are waiting to queue up and hit that button right away to get into their program. And so should Parks and Rec be reducing the cost towards printing those brochures and mailing them out? There was also a philosophical discussion about some people like to see it and feel it and touch it and highlight it. So
Right.
have we done a reduction in the number? And if so, how's it going?
We do 2 a year. I don't know if that has changed. That seems to be pretty steady. I think going back from the old copies that I have in my office that I've kind of scanned through. We have been at times trying to reduce the number of pages where possible to save costs, but again, it all depends on what we're doing and how much space we need. So that's why the rate has gone up, or the request, obviously well, actually, I don't remember what the breakout was. But I think it was about the same or maybe up slightly, just because the costs have gone up. But I'm sure that's something that will probably come up for discussion again at some point. But as of now, again, as you said, there is that whole, some people really like to get it in the mail and like to see it and hold it and mark it up and have it kind of as a reminder. And others, it doesn't matter because it's pretty much all online anyway. So under the program expenses, you'll see that jumps up. Part of that is we did have some conversations with Jen as a town administrator, and we added $10,000 in there towards our fireworks. We also added another $3,500 to other events that we have. The reason being, it's getting harder and harder to get get sponsors. It's one of those things where we're kind of always, you go back to the same well over and over again. So the feeling was that we should probably we still are going after sponsors, but to try to reduce that need a little bit. So that's why that line has gone up. And then our operating supplies, you see that goes down. Again, I thought it was odd. There was $3,900 that was in there. That was for things like tennis nets and roll dries. And to me, those are facility items. So those are now under this last category of grounds, fields, and buildings. So I'll point that out where where we moved that to, but it didn't. I was like, that's not for a program, that's for the facility. So that got moved. Any other questions with that? Okay. So the last category here is grounds, fields, and buildings expenses. So you'll see the first one, groundskeeping services, has a big jump. That is what's in there is kind of what we had for sort of beautification and to be able to maintain some of our facilities, maybe additional plants. The other money is for the maintenance of the dunes at Weed Beach. So some of you may be aware, you may have participated in it. This past, I guess, spring, it was before I got here, there was a Boy Scout project They went through and basically ripped everything out because it's filled with mugwort, which is an invasive plants. It's taking over the dunes and and kind of crowding out the grasses. So that was pulled out, and then they were plugged with all sorts of grass. Well, the problem is, unless you're maintaining it, it just grows back. So they're all overgrown again, and really the only way to maintain that is to hand pull. And we don't have the capability to do that with our staff. So we have $20,000 in here for to hire a contractor to maintain that, as well as $5,000 for additional for planting, because we're looking to do the two. I think there's 4 dunes there. 2 of them were done, and then we want to replant the other 2. And then they would also be maintaining the plant bed in the area up by the guard shack when you go into Weed Beach. So they would also maintain that. So that's why that jump is in there. Pest control is reduced. Again, that's based on our actual costs and through contract that was bid out. So they're keeping their fee, so we're happy with that.
Can I just ask, because where that seems to be the biggest issue is that we found was Tilly Pond and then at the fields in front of Town Hall. So can you, or do they go anyplace else, or are those the 2 focus?
It's there, and then also Highland. But that's
yeah, definitely.
the main focus is we've been seeing a lot this year again at Town Hall. It ebbs and flows, depends on the time of the season. As soon as people are off the fields, they all come back. So they've been very responsive. If we see them out there, I take a picture, I text them, we're on our way, and they'll come back. But it's fighting against the tide, unfortunately.
Right, so you were able to maintain the amount of time they would come to us, but just get it at a better price? Is that what you
Correct.
said? Okay,
Yep.
so we're not reducing the number.
We're not
of times.
reducing it at all. It's just
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well done.
So then, so the tree maintenance line, that line was actually reduced, but it's okay. It was reduced down to 39,000. The reason being, that's town administrative adjustment. The reason being, we had put $6,000 in there for tree replacement, and she asked that we take it out and make that a capital request. That's how it's handled with DPW. So as we go along with this, this process, there's now a $6,000 request in for capital, and I think that would be in there as an annual in annuals budget line, just like we have. Again, you'll see it shortly, but for small tools, there's like $5,000 in there every year. We would do the same thing with tree replacement, so that as trees are taken down or they come down, we can replace. So we've also increased the budget line. I bumped it up to 30,000.
Can I just ask a question before we go on? I'm
Sure.
sorry. So if there is I guess, so the 6K moving to capital, it doesn't, I was gonna say it doesn't seem like it has the flexibility to react kind of quick enough if we need to do something, but I guess it's really the maintenance. Like if a tree is falling within our parks, we have to take care of it. It's more important to have the higher number under the tree maintenance. And that's why you thought that y'all felt it was okay to move the capital for plant. Basically, I'm looking at tree replacement and planting in the capital. Is that why?
Right. So this is tree her reasoning when she explained it to me was because I put it all under tree maintenance. So
Right.
tree maintenance is really anything having to do with, maintaining the trees that are here, that we have. And we're able to do quite a bit of the work ourselves. This is whenever we need to bring in an outside arborist or contractor to, if there's a tree that's leaning, it's near a house or near a structure or near wires, or it's just too large for us, then we will contract it out. That's what gets paid from this tree maintenance line.
Got
So
it. Thank you for
the
confirming
field-
that. Is that Orchard? Do we have a dedicated person? Like, is that Orchard who does it, or do we bid it out?
Orchard does most of our work.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
they do most of it.
Yeah, they do a great job. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I did here is I had originally put in $30,000 because what's happening is we're getting, every time we're hit with something, it's like, it seems that every tree is $8,000, $6,000. So we're going through it super fast. So we've already surpassed our budget. I've already made transfers in for this year, from within our budget lines. So we're seeing, I think, just age-wise or disease-wise, a lot of trees that are coming down, and they're coming down in storms. And so we need to be able to address that. So we put $30,000 in for that. I also put in an additional $9,000 where we want to focus on basically like one park and probably rotate this throughout, year after year for a few years. But to really do some significant pruning, so it's more maintaining them. So hopefully we get longer life out of the trees, and we're able to maintain and manage them better and keep better tree health.
And would that be done by an outside service, or would that be towards Sandy and his crew doing it, but maybe part of OT time?
No, I think it would be probably a combination of the two. Where we can do it, we'll do it and we'll save the money. If they don't have time to do it and we need to bring them in on overtime, we could transfer this to the overtime line for them to do it. If there's stuff that we don't think, if we think they can do it versus an outside vendor. But some of this stuff may be higher than our bucket truck can go, things like that. Or if it needs to be climbed, we don't have climbers. So, along those lines. And then, as I said, I had included the money for the tree replacements, which is now moved out. So that's why you don't see it. That number came down. But that was the reasoning behind all of that.
May I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Hi, Jen, it's Cheryl
Hi.
Russell here. So I just want to understand this. This is for all our parks and beaches.
Correct.
So any maintenance that needs to be done to a tree, say a limb is dead or something like that, we can do. If it's a bigger problem with a tree leaning into the house or something, then we have to hire outside. But your tree replacement is now in capital and taken out of the operating, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so when we get to the capital, then we can talk about tree replacement.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Let's see, what else is there? So again, now then you have the facility repair and maintenance. So this line is typically, those are items that have a service attached to it rather than just parts and supplies. So a lot of examples would be the cleaning service that we have come in and maintain, clean the bathrooms, any fencing, irrigation, electrical, plumbing repairs. We did keep money in there that there's I believe $25,000 for different invasive removal. Again, whether that goes towards our staff or an outside contractor, but to get that done. And then again, we have some items that kind of move between this and the facility maintenance materials line, and that's kind of where it gets can get confusing at times. But that's more of supplies, and this is more of when we bring somebody in to do work.
On that subject of facility, That's to clean the bathrooms at the beaches?
At the beaches, at Cherry Lawn, the Paddle Hut, any of those locations.
When do they stop cleaning the beaches?
When we shut them down for the season. So
Okay,
when Pear Tree closes and we put the portage on out there, that's when they stop there because they've been winterized. We stop. Cherry Lawn stays year round.
right.
They still do the Paddle Hut, the bathhouse at Weed gets shut down, winterized and shut, but the Paddle Hut is open and they clean there.
Okay, well, we had an issue at Pear Tree at the end of the year of the bathrooms not being cleaned. So that's why I'm asking how far they go before they stop. So maybe we need to keep an eye on that for
Okay.
next year.
We'll
Thank
make a
you.
note. Yep. Telecommunications, that's things like our fire alarms, our cable vision at our different locations, cell phones, things along those lines. Electricity was, we had a town administrator adjustment that got bumped up to 22,388. Again, that's 22,388, and that was to adjust for current rates and new rate charges that she's anticipating. Obviously, the water. We have our sewer use charges, the portable toilet rental. That you'll see that increase because we're making them handicapped units versus regular units when we put them out there. That's important for accessibility. I think it also helps if there's a parent and child going in. So that's why that line goes up. Again, heating, fuel. So again, you'll see also that facility maintenance materials. That again is more of our supplies to do the work in-house. And also it gets bumped up because we added that 3,900 from the organized rec with the nets and the roll dries, things like that. We've also moved, you'll see the small tools has been closed out, and the waste containers is closed out. Those have all been rolled into that facility maintenance materials budget line. We also did add some money in there to assist with the trail cleanup days at Selleck's Woods. And I think for Woodlands, things like that. So when we have those groups, we're able to help in some fashion there. Any other questions on that? Okay. So that is the operating budget. And now we have the capital. So capital, we made a number of requests. There were a couple of changes that came through town administrator changes. So the first one, the rock foundation along the overflow parking, that had gotten bumped last year. That one is being pushed out a year to 26, 27. So the reason for that is we are looking to actually do off cycle the traffic study. I know there's been a lot of talk about the traffic study at Cherry Lawn. So we're looking to do that off cycle, which would happen. I'm getting the pricing now, and we'll go through. And obviously, we want to see it at peak times. So the data collection would be happening probably a day in the spring and a day in the summer. So the thought being that hopefully we'll have that and be able to implement something based on those, whatever the findings of that. So we didn't want to fix that wall in case there's a need to actually alter it or remove it. We figured we should just hold off a year and hopefully we can do it at the time that we make any other changes to the circulation or parking over there. So that's one change. The other change is the other adjustment that was made was the dredging of Cherry Lawn, of the pond at Cherry Lawn. That too was being pushed out 1 year to fiscal year 26-27. As you'll see, this has nothing to do with it, but you'll see the pricing has gone up dramatically. The estimates that we have on the dredging of Cherry Lawn Pond as well as Tilly Pond. But really, this one really comes down to a staff bandwidth issue. We're hoping to have the Pear Tree project underway, Weed Beach project underway, and we feel that probably couldn't handle both pond dredgings. And I'll go into why I think Tilly was being prioritized over Cherry Lawn and when we get to Tilly. But so that was being pushed out 1 year.
So I have a comment on that, but should
Yep.
I wait until Tilly? Because it's really kind of, why this, then that.
Yep.
So I'm happy to wait till we get to
Yeah,
Tilly.
why don't I
Okay.
get to that? I'm almost there.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Yep, sure.
Hey, Jen.
And then- Yep.
Jen, can I just add one quick question? Just to go back to the rock formation
Yes.
in Cherry Lawn. Does it make sense to put that off? It's a small number, $7,000 to fix the stone wall there and the steps, and that's getting a lot of traffic. And if you push it off a year, 2 years, for the small amount of money to fix that and make it a little bit safer, might make sense to do that. But that's just my opinion.
The part
You don't want anybody getting hurt there. It gets a lot of traffic. There's a lot of people there on weekends using that one little particular area. But
Yeah.
it's just a thought.
No, there definitely is. I mean, that's what we did put it in to that was our request, was to get it done. The part by the stairs had been fixed. I don't know if you know, last year there were a couple pieces to it. They got some funding, but not others. So this piece,
Good.
the corner of the wall, so the stair part was done, and it's the curve that leads into the overflow parking lot.
Gotcha.
Did-
Okay.
Did we do, I remember that being a long discussion last year at the Board of Finance meeting, and that number had seemed high. Did the people who fixed that, was that done in-house by our Public Works team or our Parks and Rec, or did we go outside to fix that where the stairwell is that Bill is referencing?
It was the stairs part, it was contracted out.
It was contracted out.
Yep.
Okay.
And
so would it,
Not
so when we,
exact, but it was about
Pardon?
2,500, I think, somewhere around there.
yeah, because I mean, last year the number was kind of very high. So that 2,500 really did a nice job of making it safer to come down the stairs. All the folks that are going to the gardens, the people that are going to the
Right.
playgrounds, et cetera. So thank you for doing that. Would the same people that we contracted out this be doing the fixing the rest of the retaining wall, or would you just go out to a bid, or do you open it up to a contract bid?
No, it's a small enough number that you wouldn't do a formal bid on it. So, I mean, this is the price that we got from the same contractor.
That's what, okay, thank you. So likely we just
Thank
have them do it.
Most likely, yeah, that's. So then I'll just jump down to the McGuan Park. So a lot of that area has been redone, but there is a railing that goes, it's on the handicapped access ramp down the back. The wood on that is, it's clearly been there for a long time. It's all kind of dried out, splintering. So we got a price to have someone come in and do that, replace that. And that's the 14,500 that you see there.
And that was high on the Parks and Rec Commission survey when we all walked that.
Yes.
And then when that, they took us through it, that was high because everybody saw it was dangerous. And,
Yeah.
we have our Challenger League kids and so many at the DLL. So thank you for that.
Yep. And then that railing would be done to match the railing that's up by closer to the building so that it's all consistent. So then we have Tilly Pond Park. And again, there we are looking to do the dredging of the pond. That came back at $381,000 to dredge that. And these pricing just for this and Cherry Lawn, they looked at it, they actually put boats out, they measured depths of how much sediment there was. So, I mean, it was a very thorough project to get us that quote. We would have to take the material out, have it dewater on site for a couple of months in these big containment, I don't know, they call them bags, but I don't know what they are. So they sit, they dewater. So once the water is out of them, and then they can be removed. Some of the reasoning, I think, behind making Tilly a bit more of a priority was while we have duckweed at Cherry Lawn, Tilly, we have the blue-green algae, the I'm going to say it wrong, cyanobacteria, I think, which is toxic. It also emits odors that mimic, people think it's gas leaks. So they end up calling the fire department. The fire department has to come out. So those resources get brought there. And it's also part of the whole catch basin and drainage infrastructure. So if you look at it's as we've had low water at this past fall, it's really filled in quite a bit. So as part of that drainage system, we also want to clean it out. But we're hoping that also by doing that, we'll be getting rid of that algae for at least quite a while. But we're concerned about that. So I know, Patty, you have questions, but that was, I think, the reasoning behind why pushing that ahead of Cherry.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you including it, both of them in the first place. I guess I would just have a few comments. There's probably efficiency of scale and pricing if you're contracting out to do both at the same time. Now, I know that, as you said, you have a lot going on if we end up doing weed or pear tree and or weed or both. But those projects are really done by the folks that are hired. I guess it'd be a little oversight that you're driving by. When we did Tilly Pond, the little smaller pond, the folks would drive by from Public Works or Parks and Rec and check on it. But it's not a lot that your team would do at all. And so I just wondered if the costs end up being more expensive by waiting and having them all bring this equipment out, for a second year versus having equipment coming into town and doing both at the same time. So that would be my one comment. My second comment would be, I love Tilly Pond, but children are not playing in it. They're not putting their hands in it. They're not touching the critters. They're not actively, there might be the few kids fishing, but at Cherry Lawn, there's a lot of fishing. The Darien Nature Center kids are actively participating. Their camps all throughout the summer, part of what they do is they go down, they pull the critters, they touch it. And so the fact that last year, you know, Molly Robinson from the Darien Nature Center said that they had to hire a bus to take the kids to New Canaan, to Mead Park's Pond, to do that. To me, that makes it a #1 health and safety issue. And so I would love to see us do both if we could swing it effectively, financially, efficiently. And if not, my personal recommendation would be do the one where we actively have kids putting their hands in that pond, because I know you're referencing Tilly as, you know, algae bloom, but I mean, you saw all the stuff that Molly Robinson sent to all of you all. Like it's text. She had a grant to test that water. She's been testing it for years. It's now at 0 degrees, 0% dissolved oxygen. So nothing is left in there. Everything is dead. And it's testing when she pulls out the water, toxic level. So that's my more than 2 cents on why I think that is actually the more important pond to dredge from a public health and safety issue. But thank you for your time for letting me say that.
Yeah, and I'll see, I'll reach out to the person that gave us the estimates too, to see if it makes a difference for cost. In
Great,
terms of
thanks.
doing them at the same time. Yep. The next item that we put in is the stripping of the paddle court paint at Weed Beach. This is something that you do, about every 20, I think 20 years or so. So we're on this would be the third, I think this is the third court that we would be doing. So we're looking to do 1 court a year. Because the 6th court is brand new, we wouldn't have to do that anytime soon, but that's why you see it in here over the next 2 years. So that is a maintenance piece. The other part at Weed Beach is the meadow and trail project. We were asked to put that in as part of the capital process. We're putting that in at 2.5 million. Based on our past estimates that we've gotten, I think wanting to give a little bit of cushion. I'm sure Adele is going to speak to it, but there is going to be a tour on the February 1st, between 10 and 1. We're going to go and look at Weed Beach for that meadow and trail project, and then also go over to Pear Tree and walk through there along with Dan Biggs from Weston and Sampson to be able to answer questions that people might have.
Could you just confirm that time? Because we got an email that said it was going to be 9 to 12.
Yeah,
No, it's
originally
10.
it was going to be 9 to 12, and it got pushed to 10 to 1.
And can you tell us which park is first?
Weed Beach.
And do you estimate it'll be like half and half?
I would think so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So then we go to Pear Tree, and again, so the number is frightening. We were asked to put in 10 million. The last cost estimate that we had was 6.9. So the thought was to put in, the request was to put in 10, and then hopefully in the meantime, I think it was mentioned, we were at planning and zoning last night. They closed the public hearing. So once we hopefully get approval from them, it all seemed positive. We will then get the bid documents together, get them out, so that we can put the bid out. So we're kind of looking at hoping to do this sort of in a parallel process. Obviously, that would go for bonding and everything anyway, but hopefully as we move through, we'll have a true number, so that when you guys are really looking at the budget, in the May timeframe, you have a better idea of what it is, and it hopefully will be less than 10 million. It should be. So that's kind of the thought process with that project kicking off, hopefully right after Labor Day.
Jen, does Dan Biggs have the bid packages ready to go?
He needs about 30 days after they've been working on them. So 30 days once we get the approval. So we're expecting hopefully by mid-March, they'll be going out. If we get approval from P&Z mid-February.
Well, I was my understanding that these bid packages were supposed to go out last fall, because that's when we found out that P&Z hadn't we hadn't gone to P&Z. So it was my understanding that Dan Biggs had them ready to go.
No, because we need to know what project is actually approved in case planning and zoning made changes to it. We couldn't bid it out ahead of time. So we needed that approval before. So he's been working on them and getting them together, but it needs to be finalized once we have the final approval from planning and zoning.
So the bids won't be ready until March-ish?
Give or take. Yeah, he said about 30 days once we get the approval. So we're
And then we won't get a shovel in the ground until maybe November?
No, what we're looking for is probably September 2nd, right after Labor Day. We wouldn't want to do it at the beginning of during the season anyway. We want to let people get in. So the thought was right after Labor Day, we'd hit the ground running and get it done. And it would go into spring, early summer of 2026, because there are timeframes where we can't do work in the water based on the permits because of different species that are in there. So we have to work around that. So it'll all be about coordinating and sequencing things. But the hope is we get all the approvals and the funding so that come September 2nd, we can start work.
Contacted the Darien Boat Club in regards to any funding that they can contribute to this, and have they contacted, well, we can't contact the members yet to pull boats out early.
So no, the Commodore was at the meeting last night. I know Lori Bora's been speaking with them. So she's been communicating with them, and obviously we'll collaborate and work with them in terms of scheduling. Again, sequence wise, there may be some stuff that they would start on sooner that would let them keep the boats in or something. So we would try to work with them and so it's not has as little impact as possible on everybody.
Okay, and our permit runs out in 27, correct?
Correct. Yes, it was received in 22. It's 5 years. So in 27, so we should be fine. If something gets delayed for some reason, we'd have to at least show that we're in progress. So if we're doing something, then we can probably get an extension if we get held up with a piece of it or something. But I think our hope is that it would be done prior to and not need an extension.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Jen, thanks. I thought you did a great job last night taking through, or the other day, taking through P&Z through that with Dan Biggs. So thank you very much. And to Cheryl's point, I was just about to say, I remember thinking if they're going to do it right after Labor Day, boats aren't, most people aren't having their boats out until later. But one of the things Dan said was we could start towards the left side. Like there were the one area where there were title things that we could do, that we could start there and then address it. So I thought that was very helpful. Thank you.
Yep. So then going on, the rest of this stuff is mostly equipment. Like I mentioned earlier, the small capital, which is in here every year, $5,000. So this is kind of, I think, where it's not in here because, as I said, Jen just made the adjustment or asked for the change. So again, in here, we would be putting $6,000 for tree replacement. At the thought process there was that if something got, or as it was explained to me, if for some reason it wasn't spent for, I don't know, season wise, temperature wise, there were different reasons that they weren't all planted. The money could then go back into the capital reserve, I guess, and be reallocated or come back out. So that's where they wanted to put it. We are requesting a replacement loader. That also has a few attachments in there that had been in the request in here as previously. So the loader that we have is currently 20 some odd years old. It's actually a crucial piece of equipment that we use for everything, for all sorts of stuff, especially that we need it to pull our beach groomer. So obviously it's an important piece of equipment, and we're concerned that if the other one goes down, we're stuck and we won't be able to maintain the properties as we need to.
Could you just give, just because that's a big number,
Yep.
could you give us 5 things that the replacement loader does? So if someone asks us, we can give it back to them and tell them,
Let's see, hold on.
if you don't mind.
If you can't get your hands on it, Jen, you can also send us the information when you can.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's fine.
Well, that would be fine.
Thank you, Adele.
Right. Yeah, I'll send you, I think it's what I have written in, if you've ever seen the documents and the write-ups for each one. I think it was a little bit more general. Beach raking, storm cleanup, removal of logs and tree debris. Those are some of the main things that we do. So one of the pieces that we're looking, you'll see on here too, is a log grapple, which we'll be able to use on both the loader as well as our skid steer. We're trying to, any of the attachments, we're trying to make sure they're as versatile as possible and be able to be used on multiple pieces of equipment. So as we're finding, as we have storms and things like that, these trees are coming down and they'll be, so the grapple and things will help be able to grab it, pick it up, move it and put it into the trucks. So I did, for those of you who will get to see all those documents, and I'm sure they'll get shared at some point, I did try to put in even like pictures of what we're looking at, the types of attachments, things like that as well.
Thank you. Great.
Yep. Accessible mats for beaches. So, and actually, I think the priority number might have been changed on that one. So what these are, well, they're accessible beaches, accessible mats, but I use these in Westport. I put them in. They get rolled out at the beginning of the season, and then you can take them in. You can take them in if you have a big storm coming. And basically what it does, and people were really thrilled, and it's, you know, for anybody that just wants to walk easier down to the water. But it can be useful for anyone with any kind of mobility issues. You could get a wheelchair right down into the water. And what we're looking to do is put one at Pear Tree and one at Weed Beach. And again, it's just, we also, that pricing, I also put it in far enough to try to get over a bunch of the rocks. We think we'll be able to use it. Not sure if we'd be able to anchor it in, but we wanted to try to get that because people had mentioned to me, you know, it's hard walking on those rocks. getting into the water. So if the water's up, people that don't have any issues, it might be helpful for them to more easily get into the water. But, it's important that we try to make our facilities as accessible as possible. So that's what we're looking to do, is get people down to the water. The log grapple I mentioned. The other big one would be our financial sustainability strategy. So what this is something that I did in Westport. And I think it's super important. It would be a whole process where we bring in a consultant, and they work with not only staff, but they would work with the commission, the Parks and Rec Commission. And part of it is working on sort of what is our philosophy, what is our goal in terms of cost recovery. So typically what we would do, we'd look at it. It goes into the debate of, should things be paid through taxpayer dollars, or should they be paid through user fees? So the whole philosophical question will come into play, and it'll be determined as to how much we want to recoup on any given item. So, for example, if someone, I'll say for a kayak rack, right? If you are using that kayak rack, or you're renting a court, you have now exclusive use of that facility. So you're now keeping every other taxpayer off of that. So whatever that cost is, you should be paying 100% or more of that. That's kind of what we did in Westport. So a better example, it's easier to understand. So we had marinas in Westport. If you had a dock, you had a slip in our marina, clearly no one else can use that slip. So because you have that, then you should be paying at least that cost. That the taxpayer should not be paying for you to have a boat in that facility. So it would put together a whole strategy policy that we would then use. And it also has software that what we would do is upload all of our costs. We upload all of our revenues, our participation numbers, and it will really help us to determine how we should set our pricing, how we set our numbers. If it tells us that, if it's determined that a particular type of program should be at an 80% cost recovery, it will calculate in there all of our expenses, all of our revenue. If it's showing us that we're only at bringing in 50% of our costs, well, then we have to make some decisions. It could be that you no longer offer that program. It could be that you raise the fees. And again, if it's a big leap, it could be done incrementally. It could be you find sponsorships to offset. It could be you change the expenses that are involved, right? You could maybe put some of that onto the person, or instead of, we used to give a free t-shirt with that program. Well, we're no longer going to give a free t-shirt, and that brings the cost down. So there are all different ways that you can come to that cost. It's not necessarily raising fees, but it helps to justify what we're doing, what we're charging, what we're trying to recover. And we can get as involved as, part of what we did was it included direct costs as well as indirect costs. So we would put in our overhead, our debt service. I think a lot of times that gets forgotten. Once you have once you've done the debts, or, once you, for example, tennis courts, once you've gone and you've done the capital project and you've built the new tennis courts, well, our fee is, your regular maintenance on that is not a lot of money to spend. However, you still have to pay back the debt service that you took out to build those courts. So that can be incorporated in as well. So that's what that is all about. It's trying to give us that information, that data, create everything so that we know the mindset that the commission will set and put forth. Again, going back to that philosophy of, should this be user-based? What's the benefit? Who is benefiting from it? Should it be tax-based? Should it be user-based? So I probably didn't do a very good job explaining that, but it's kind of complicated, but when you're doing it, it actually makes sense.
Jen, I'm sure that you did it a lot better than I could. Thank you, thank you.
We also have in here a replacement lift gate for a truck. Obviously, it's just reached its useful life. It's rusted out. We need to replace that. And then a portable sound system. We had this request from the first selectman. At one point, he had said, we need a better sound system that, we have a very small, easy to use sound system, which doesn't work for any large crowds. The larger system that we have is mediocre, but it's also very complicated. It has mixing boards and everything. So this sound system would be able to be utilized for all sorts of events. It's wireless. It's battery charged. They're Bluetooth, so they can talk to each other, so we can separate. So for example, at Old Fashioned Holiday, we can put one by the hut, and we can put one further down in the park, so we can get sound without blasting people in one spot. You can hear it somewhere else. Would be able to have clearer sound when anyone's doing speeches, things like that. I know there was the wreath ceremony. They wanted to use this past December. They wanted to use the sound system. So it could be used by other departments and things for different events, and when we have speeches and things outside or inside even. But so that's what that is for. So I think that's everything that was requested from a capital standpoint.
Wow. Does anybody else have any questions for Jen? That was a lot to take us through. We appreciate it.
Sure.
It was very thorough. Cheryl?
I do. Yeah, I do. And I came into this meeting late because I couldn't get on this Zoom thing. And I apologize if I'm sure you've already gone over the beach fees increases. And I just like to know what they've gone up from $50 to $58. Normally, in past years, the only time we increased the beach fees was when there was going to be improvements to the beaches. And over the years, as you know, Weed has always gotten more improvements and done more than Pear Tree. And we've been waiting and waiting for Pear Tree to come on board and pick up where we left off probably 15, 20 years ago. So by eliminating a toilet and a urinal in both bathrooms down there has caused chaos in the summertime. And I'm just curious as to why, and I can ask Lori the same question, but I haven't had a chance to do that yet. Why the increase of $8 without getting Pear Tree fixed up and improved, and wait another year or two to increase that fee?
So First off, let me just explain, the 50 to 58 is not a complete, is not apples to apples. It's really 53 to 58. The fee that they have, because we're now including the tax. So if you went to, it gets confusing because what had been done previously was the commission set a fee for the beach emblem. So it was 50. But then we have to, the state of Connecticut charges tax on that. So when you went in to register for and buy that emblem online, it was $53. However, when the numbers were being done, the town was actually only collecting $49 and something cents because instead of rounding up, they rounded down. So we weren't even collecting the dollar amount that the commission had approved. So some of the other categories, I know there are different fees at different levels. So some of them we were, again, not bringing in the same revenues. So what we did this year was we said they should be voting on the fee that will actually be charged. So instead of it being 53 tax included, it's 58 with the tax included. So
Does that, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
So does that include, I know there was at one time discussion of a fee if somebody charged their beach sticker, and that was discussed. Is this for a cash and go in and write a check and hand it to the girl at the counter, or does this include a fee for charging?
There's no charge for the use of a credit card.
Okay.
So it's 58, it's 58 no matter what form of payment you make. So basically, I mean, in looking at the fees, nothing was ever said to me about, we usually only do it when we have an improvement. But it's really just because our costs have been going up. Again, our minimum wage is going up.
Right.
Any of our
Right.
materials to maintain the facility, everything is going up. So
Right.
the last time the fee was done was, I think it was 3 years ago. So that was the impetus behind the fee increases.
Well, I'm happy also to see that they raised the weekend daily entrance fee. Because at Parrot Tree, the minute the gate guard leaves, it's packed with people from out of town. And with Great Island having parking at Parrot Tree and going to Great Island is also an issue the minute the gate guard leaves, because people walk there and that is open to everyone. And it's not just for Darien residents, so they don't need a beach sticker to get into Pear Tree once the gate guard leaves anyway. But I'm happy to see that was raised up, and I think that would be a good thing and create more revenue on weekends, because we do have a lot of out-of-towners on weekends
Yeah,
at both beaches.
Yep, and that's something that most of the surrounding municipalities do. They have a higher rate on the weekend and holidays. So being that we were lower on the weekends, we might have also been getting more people on the weekends.
Yeah.
But it's a prime time. So that was the reason for that change as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Last call. Does anyone else have a question for Jen, or at least last call for tonight?
Jen, I think that was a really good overview. I just have one question regarding the loader. What's the lifetime of these loaders, and just over time, is it cheaper to lease the loaders just because we're going to be replacing it in a short period of time, or do they last long enough that we should just buy it outright?
No, they're about 15 to 20 years lifespan. So it definitely makes sense. I will say, from what I've seen of our equipment, our staff takes very good care of them. of our equipment. They maintain it. That right now, that's part of what they're doing over the winter is they're maintaining every piece of equipment they go through. So I think we're able to get extra years out of what we have. But yeah, I would say it makes sense to purchase, and that 107 includes I think 3 different attachments. So the loader itself was around 89 or so, I think, plus the 3 attachments. And like I said, we're looking at attachments that can also be used by some other pieces of equipment. And I think it can also be used by some of the DPW equipment should they need to use it as well.
Excellent. Well, with that said, thank you very much, Jen. And we'll let you go back to your evening. We
Thank you
appreciate
very
it. That was
Thank you.
that was
Thank
very,
you.
very extensive, and we appreciate it.
Great job.
problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good evening.
Night.
And now I bet we're all ready to go home too. Okay, so let's make it quick for the rest of our meeting, I think. That was really, really good. She really took us
Good.
through the whole thing. Interesting. Next on the agenda is updates for the for various committees and the town committees as well as the commission's advisory committees. I can give you a little bit update on the advisory groups as we go through. And let me see here. The commission discussed their advisory groups for fiscal year, for 2026. And at the commission meeting. So I'll let you know what they said. They're gonna probably gonna combine. They're probably gonna take the pickleball group and make it a racquetball, group, at not just solely pickleball. They just discussed these. They will vote at their next meeting what they're gonna do. They may combine the Cherry Lawn Garden group and the invasives group, and they likely will disband Baker Playground since it is about to be installed. And they were questioning if they might need a field group, but maybe just a liaison. So they'll be talking about all of this at their next meeting. Does anybody have anything that you want to report on for some of the other groups that we follow? I listed them out here in our agenda. I left off the Great Island, but I left it off. So anyway, so does anyone have anything? Also, we have some people who've been looking at these, following these different committees for the last year or even 2 years, and you don't necessarily have to continue. But it was nice if you do. If some people like to join those folks that are already, following these groups, that would be terrific. We need the budget committee so far. Excuse me. Patty and I are the budget committee, so I would like some other volunteers for that if possible. This year, they're going to allow up to 4 members to have access to the online budget for the town. And it's really, really helpful. I mean, I know we heard a lot of detail, but that's the sort of detail that you will see online. So it's a good thing to do. So just let me know. I need to know probably in the next couple of days, anyone who would like to join us. So you don't have to tell me right now, but let me know soon. So anyone else have any reporting?
Just
Oh, go ahead.
me.
Diane.
Okay. Just very quickly, Wreaths Across America is looking for volunteers to pick up wreaths and take them to the dump this next weekend at 9 o'clock in the morning. And that's over at the cemetery, January 25th, that is. And just one other little announcement, and this Wreaths Across America is not through the Monuments and Ceremonies, but they support it. They can't collect monies though. So there was another group doing this. And I think we did better this year. I'm not quite sure if all the funds were gathered that they wanted to, but they wanted to have a wreath on every grave there. So they didn't quite know whether that had happened or not yet. The second announcement is that Darienne's going to be celebrating its 250th birthday this year. And this is something, again, that the Monuments and Ceremonies does not know if they're going to participate in, but that's going to take place in July. There will be a celebration. And there is a committee, I think, that worked on the last birthday that is going to be working on this one again. They've had their first meeting, apparently, I think yesterday. So if anybody's interested.
Thank you.
It,
Thank you. Is that Penny who wanted to say
I
something
just
too?
have something very quick, just about beautification, which is that currently there are 3 open positions on that, and there are a couple people going through the process, but they're looking for one more. So there's an open spot in case anyone wants to advertise that around, mention it to friends, that kind of a thing. So I just thought that was one thing that came out of their most recent meeting that I should mention. But other than that, it was just more of an update about what was going on with the Darien Blooms project. There wasn't much, to that report. They're trying to figure out sort of maintenance of those gardens within some budget constraints. So they're working on that, and then the hanging baskets are growing in the greenhouses, and they're going to be petunias. So I just thought that was so nice to hear in January. But apart from that, their next meeting is February 5th at 9, in case anybody's interested. And that's all I have to report on that.
Thank you.
Sir?
Thank you. Susan?
Adele, so Coastal Waters has not met in quite a while. And the only thing I can tell you is they are down at least 3 members, if not more. I don't know if the Board of Selectmen I assume they're reaching out to the town committees, but you can be an unaffiliated, and you don't need to go through a town committee. So if anyone knows of people that are interested in joining that, I'm sure that they would like to have some additional members.
Anybody else?
can I just add one thing to Monuments and Ceremonies?
Sure.
They have just lost a member as well. And I do think that member was a Democrat. So if anybody's interested and you're a Democrat, probably unaffiliated, you could reach out to Suzanne Shore.
Actually, Diane, can I ask you a question going back to the 250th birthday? So I wasn't, Patty had just texted me. I was involved with the 2020 celebration, which actually ended up being 2021. So
Right.
is it Monuments and Ceremonies that's handling the whole thing?
No, they cannot handle it. They did.
Okay.
There's another group. They
Okay.
can't, because they can't collect any money.
Right.
And that was the problem with the wreaths across America as well.
So is it stemming from, like last time it really stemmed from the first selectman's office, and then there was a committee formed? Do you know if that's happening again?
There is a committee already, or somebody has picked it up. There's not a complete committee. But the people who did it the last time, I don't know who the chairman was. I think that is the person maybe who has gone.
Al Miller. Al Miller did it in 2021.
I'm not sure the name of the person, but that they would, they've started, they had a meeting yesterday, and I can get that information, I'm sure, who it is, but. Okay, seems to be a lot of openings around town and commissions.
It's true. Cheryl?
Adele, When the Harbor Advisory Committee was put together, it's an advisory committee.
Mhm.
And we had a representative on the commission, and it was me. For 19 years, I was on that committee. So if anybody is interested on being on the Harbor Advisory Commission from our committee, maybe you could let Adele know and we can put somebody back on there again. I don't know why somebody came off. I can't remember who went on after I came off, or nobody went on, but we did have a Park and Rec representation on that commission.
Well, also Cheryl, I mean, maybe it's always been this, but Lori is an ex officio from the Parks and Rec Commission.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yes, we had the chairman of the Park and Rec Commission was an ex officio. But we still had a representative on the committee.
Interesting. Okay. That's
So
nice.
Can I just ask Diane, Diane, could you give me the date? Did you say it's next Saturday when they wanted people with trucks for a pickup for the
The
wreaths?
25th at 9
Which day?
o'clock. The 25th.
25th of
This
January?
Saturday, I believe.
Okay, so not next
Okay,
week.
9 o'clock in the morning.
And it just goes to
Just-
the, we pick it up and it goes to, I'm gonna happen to have a truck for a little bit, so maybe I can help. So it just goes, we just pick it up there and we take it to the recycle center,
It would go to the.
to the dump?
They said
Okay.
to the dump. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I think they try to get the Boy Scouts to come in and grab the wreaths too, they help to put them down, so there are quite a number of wreaths over there.
Well,
Ellie Scallon, put on your cowboy hat, we're gonna pick up some wreaths.
It's already on the calendar, darling.
I'm hoping somebody's gonna volunteer to follow the 5 Mile River Commission or the Great Island Committee. So I don't have a report for Great Island. I have not listened to their meetings. I know they're meeting tonight. I know they've made progress on the vision statement. And so it's probably really a good time to be paying attention, but I'm not up on it this meeting. So think about it, somebody who'd like to attend, or just you can watch the Vimeos of their meetings. They're busy. They're busy. I think I've probably given most of my chairman's report while we've been talking, particularly about the fees. I think we probably know a fair amount about the fees. I can't print it where I am, and so that's why I had to send I typed this up and it's on my phone. Thank you very much. So let me see what else there is here that we didn't talk about. I think we have everything about the fees pretty much. The commission had a long discussion about the fees, particularly about the per student field fees that were $5 the past few years, and they've raised them, and they proposed to raise them to $25. That's per child per season. And so they changed their minds and they decided to do it incrementally. So it's being raised to $10 from $5 per child per sport per season. But I think we went over the rest of them. And there was the long discussion was that we charge a whole lot less, as Jen said, than the Board of Ed charges more like 45. But they also give a lot more too. They have turf fields, they have concession stands, so it's not cookie cutter. But the good news is that as part of the discussions, the head of the let's see, I have Doug Wilson from the junior football League and John Butler from the Darien Little League were both there and part of the discussion. And so it was very obvious that it's not actually easy, it's complicated. So I'm sure they'll be talking more about that. The other reason why the Little League was there is because they asked the commission about displaying banners at McGuan Field. And Jen Fava reported that the only P&Z rules that we could find was that they not be visible from the road. And so there was a discussion about that, about obviously they're raising money, and they do still want to replace those fields at McGuan. And then they kicked into the fee discussion because why are we paying to replace the fields if we're getting charged more for the kids to play? So anyway, it was an interesting discussion, but the commission did not vote on it. They will vote probably at their next meeting on whether to allow that. The high school does allow it, but there are rules. There's the rules about color. There's the rules about size of signs, and et cetera, et cetera. So it would need a policy for it to happen. And the other bits and pieces, they're very quick. The Baker playground installation could already be occurring. I don't know. They were right. I think they thought that the playground itself was being delivered shortly. That was right after the commission meeting, and so they were going to start as soon as they got it. But the weather does affect it, so I think the snow and the ice doesn't help for the moment anyway. All the same for Holohan. They were expected to start mid-January, and that was weather dependent too. So Holohan will be ready for the spring, which is good.
Excellent.
Yeah, exactly. The paddle usage numbers are down. They're down about $10,000. The squash program is going great guns and with the Oxford Hunt Club. And their fun events will be coming up soon. That I think Jen mentioned the Sun Plus One Fun Night on January 31st, the daughter duo dance on February 7th, and the Adventure Day at Selleck's Woods, May 18th, before you know it. And they need volunteers for all of them. So, and that is my report. We only have left on our agenda is approval of the minutes. There are two minutes for September 11th and December 11th as well. So are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, I may have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
9/11 and 12/11. Second.
Second.
Cheryl moved. Who spoke?
Carrie.
Carrie. Thank you, Carrie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, guys. I think it's unanimous. Is there any new business? Well, I'd like to say thank you to everybody. That was a long meeting. I was hoping in a way it was going to be a long meeting because that meant there was detail in it. And I think we all learned something. So last but not least, the tours that I sent you the information about for February 1st, let me know if you can come because I'll need to warn a meeting if there are enough of us, so that we aren't in an illegal meeting. And so do think about going if you possibly can, and let me know pretty soon. And then February 3rd is when the Board of Selectmen is going to review the Park and Rec budget. It's probably going to be a marathon night, starts at 7 o'clock. And there are a lot of departments on the agenda. So, but that's when it is. So we all look forward to that. And anything else, anyone? I'll take
a question about the budget committee that you were searching for volunteers for earlier.
Yes.
What is their, I guess, role in, for example, the February 3rd meeting, like the Board of Selectmen reviewing the budget? Will they be a part of that conversation or listening in on that conversation?
Basically listening in on the conversation. Basically, it entails to sort of follow. If you can come, it's better because when they see you there, they know that you're paying attention. But it's easy.
And they're always
not
held
as
in
easy to
person,
cut
it's
things
not-
is when there's somebody staring at you, and I'm looking at Susan when I say that. Yeah, and but yeah, no, there's no formal role, but sometimes, and then there will be other reviews of the budget as time goes on, you know, and then we'll go to the Board of Finance, and then we'll also be talking to our liaisons on the Board of Finance and the F&B, the two guys that were here tonight, Bill and Mike, which they're conscientious, which is great. I'm glad they were with us tonight. But yeah, but basically, most of the time we were answering questions, to tell you the truth, because generally speaking, you saw what we went through tonight. We generally know more about our budget than other people do. So we're a help, but we
Right.
followed the process.
Got it. Yeah, like I'm happy to listen in on the conversations. Potentially not always in person is the only issue right now at the moment. I'm coming to realize that 7:30 meetings are not the best time for my family. So that's just like the one hesitancy that I have. But if it's something that I can do virtually, I'm more than happy to volunteer and help with that.
Okay, well, we'll talk to you about that. You know,
Let
you
me
have a
know.
lot on your plate.
Yeah.
But, everybody, let me know. This is the first time, you know, in the past, as actually Patty reminded me, I didn't even used to have access to the full budget as chairman. And then they let the chairman have the access. And now this year they're letting, you know, like a committee up to 4 people to have the access, it's a very good thing. And so interesting too. So just let me know. And I thank you, Jean, for always volunteering. God bless you. And everybody have a good night. And thanks for coming.
Thank you.
See you next month.
Thank you.
All right.
Do we need to make a
Bye-bye.
motion to end the meeting?
Yeah, we probably should. I thought I
All
did
right,
that,
I'll
but
move the
never
motion
mind.
to end the meeting
I
from
think
from
we
the tundra of New Orleans and 10-inch snow.
I think we did, but I will, you know, do it again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great meeting.
Bye-bye.